And I think that's us live, everyone. Hi there. For those new to my channel, my name's Nikki. I'm an author and editor, and I post videos here on YouTube about writing, editing, reading, and all the other things I love. Now, I'm super excited to be here today, as always, to share with you just a little bit about the TV and films I've been watching during the last few weeks, during March. I actually haven't got, I say I haven't got that many. There are a few things to discuss. Perhaps it's better to say I haven't really been to the cinema much this month. That's not for any particular reason. There was one or two things that I kind of was half interested in, but when you factor in time and money, I wasn't so obsessed with the idea of seeing them that I decided to go in the end. I think they're ones that I will definitely watch at some point on Netflix or TV, whenever I get an opportunity, but I just decided not to spend my time and money going to the cinema. That will change a bit in April. There's quite a few things coming out in April that interest me, so I am hoping to get to, at least 2 or 3 of them. We've got the French Film Festival on here at the moment, which there's several things I'd really like to see, but the ones that most interest me are all on at completely unsuitable times for me, naturally, because that's the way things go. I don't think I'm going to get there for anything this year, but I'll definitely jot down the names of some of the films because there's a few that look really good, so I might have an opportunity to watch them somewhere else in the future. Anyway, without any further ado and waffling, let me get straight on and tell you just a bit about what I have been up to in March. So, as I said, I did only go once to the cinema, and that was to see Captain Marvel. As you all know, anyone who watches these videos knows I'm a huge MCU fangirl. So, of course, I went to see Captain Marvel. Hubby came with me, and we both had a good time. I think it was a really enjoyable film. Marvel has yet to put out a bad movie. There's always some you enjoy more than others, just depending on who your favourite characters are, which storylines appeal to you. Captain Marvel was a sort of solid 4 to 4.5 stars for me. I thought it was a good film. I liked the introduction of the character. I particularly enjoyed Goose, the lovely cat, who kind of stole the show in some of his scenes. And I did really love Jude Law, actually, as Yomrok as well. And, this is partly because I do rather love Jude Law in pretty much anything. But he was looking mighty fine in this film, and I thought he did a good performance. And I'll be interested to see if Marvel do bring him back, because obviously they didn't, I don't want to spoiler it, but let's just say they didn't kill off his character. So there is an opportunity for him to return at some point, depending on which way they take Captain Marvel after Avengers Endgame. So on that note, anyway, yes, it was a good Marvel offering. Perhaps it wouldn't make my top 10 Marvel, or perhaps I should say my top 10 MCU, just to be clear. But it was still really good, and I'm going to look forward to the DVD release and getting to watch it a second time. So moving on to other films that I watched on TV and via streaming. There was only 3 of these this month as well. So the first one was Pride, which I watched on SBS On Demand. So this is a film going back a few years to, about 2014 or 2015, I think it came out. And it was based on a true story of a gay group in London who decided to do some fundraising and get money to help the miners who were on strike, rather famously in the middle of the 80s, in the Thatcher years. So it's kind of a biography, a drama, but with a lot of comedy mixed into, as this group of young gay people or young LGBT people go over to Wales to meet people in this mining village who have never met anyone from that spectrum before. And so obviously there are people that accept them, there are people that are a bit unsure until they get to know them. And I think it was a really well done piece, actually. I think the balance worked well between the drama and allowing for a few comedic moments. I was quite in love with Dominic West as Jonathan. I love Dominic West anyway, so you can always just like say with me, oh well, it's just one of her actor crushes. But I thought he was good. And Bill Nye's performance was brilliant as always. Imelda Staunton was great. It was full of some great big name English actors. So I definitely recommend it. Check it out. It was great fun, and it also had like a few good serious points to make as well. Next up on Netflix, I watched the can't even speak now. Netflix original film, Isn't It Romantic? To be honest, this is not something that I would naturally have gravitated towards. However, I'd seen some really good reviews of it, including from people who said I don't usually watch this kind of film, but. So I decided to give it a try. And overall, I did actually really enjoy it. It was a quirky take on the romantic comedy. I liked the way it kind of turned things on its head, and it was kind of an anti-romantic comedy in some ways. And I thought it was a good laugh. It's not a film that I'm going to want to come back and watch again and again and again. But just to see it once, it amused me. I had a laugh. And it was just a good way to pass a couple of hours just for a bit of fun. A few nice little cameos from people like Tom Ellis. And overall, it's worth checking out, even if you're not a rom-com watcher. It was just something a little bit different and quirky. And finally, for films, I watched on TV, on SBS, Frost Nixon. Now, this is a pretty old film now. I think it's about 10 years old, but I hadn't seen it before. And it's one of those that I'd always kind of thought, oh, I really should watch that. And every time it's been on TV, it's been put on at a ridiculously late hour. And often on a Sunday night or a weeknight when you just can't stay up until 1 or 2 a.m. to see it. And this time it was on a Saturday and it was playing until midnight, which even on a Saturday I was a bit like, but my husband was out. He wasn't coming back till a bit later. So I thought, no, I'm going to sit down and give it a go and finally get to see it. I am a big fan of Michael Sheen. Michael Sheen. I do love his work. So I thought he was brilliant in this. Frank Langella was also wonderful. I kind of knew a little bit about Watergate and everything that happened with that, but only on a really superficial level. So I was quite interested to see, to learn a bit more about it and how things had played out with Nixon's resignation, things like that. And it's quite a long film, but I did find it really entertaining. I wasn't bored. I was always keen to see how things would work out. For David Frost, was he going to get his interview and was it all going to happen? Because I'd never seen the original interview, so I didn't know. And overall, I thought it was a really well-produced film with some excellent performances. So it is a political drama, so that's not going to appeal to everyone. But I do recommend checking out, even if it isn't your usual sort of thing. So that brings us on to television. And I've been watching a few things. So just flicking through, I think all of them were streaming, none of them on TV itself as such. First off, I watched Immortals on Netflix, which is a vampire series, a Turkish vampire series, and of 8 episodes. This was season 1, so I assume they are considering doing more. Overall, I found it okay. I mean, I think there were things about it I really loved. I kind of liked the concept, but at the same time, towards the end, it kind of felt like they were taking some obvious paths, and I would have liked to have seen something a little bit more original. There's nothing wrong with the acting. That was all fine. I guess I just kind of felt like I'd been there, seen it, got the t-shirt kind of thing before. And I think it would have worked better if they'd made a little bit more of their settings. It's set in Istanbul. And I think there was a possibility there, an option for them to really do more with the setting. Because really, they could have taken the scenes that they had and put them pretty much anywhere. If they'd made a little bit more of the Turkish setting, I mean, they had a little bit of Turkish cultural references and things in there, but they could have done a bit more with that just to give it a bit more of an original twist, I think. Whereas as it is at the moment, you felt you could transplant it into any country and it would have worked exactly the same. So there was that. But look, if you like vampire shows, there's still plenty there to enjoy. I didn't hate it. I wasn't bored. I just think that there are a few missed opportunities where they could have done something a little bit different with it. Moving on, sticking with Netflix, I watched Love, Death and Robots, which is a series of shorts, essentially animated shorts, all with a sort of sci-fi / fantasy kind of twist. There's a few with some sort of werewolf, paranormal kind of stuff going on too. I actually really enjoyed this series. I watched it without any really high expectations. I was just like, oh, well, adult animation, let's give it a go, see what it's like. As with any kind of anthology of shorts like this, there are some I enjoyed more than others, but there were none that I really disliked. I thought they all had something to offer. Some that really stood out for me, the first one with the sort of robot fights and things going on. I did enjoy the werewolves. I enjoyed the later one with the Russians, where they'd kind of awakened these evil creatures from the earth and the soldiers were sent out to try and fight them. Another one that was great fun was sort of aliens breaking into the farmers' fields. So there were some really great moments. And I think there is a little bit of something for everyone. Even if you don't enjoy all of the shorts, there will be some there that you like. And if you're not particularly enjoying one, you can always just skip to the next one. And most of them, I mean, they kind of ranged from 10 to 20 minutes each. So you could watch them if you just had an odd few minutes to spare. You could just slot one in if you didn't have time for a full episode of something. So definitely give it a try. It was something a bit different. Next up, still on Netflix, I watched The Order Season 1. Now, this was a show that, I mean, I finished watching it, but again, it kind of just felt like it was just rehashing the same old stuff that we see in these kinds of shows all the time. I didn't hate it, but it didn't completely grab me. I thought the performances were average. None of them really stood out for me as amazing. The storyline was okay, but again, it didn't spark anything particularly amazing in me. It just felt familiar, I guess. I kind of knew where it was going to go before it got there. I'm not sure if I'd watch a second season or not. It might depend on, I might start the second season and see how I felt about it. But I just felt, again, there were missed opportunities that it could have been better than it was. It did leave us on a really gigantic cliffhanger, which is, I don't mind slight cliffhangers, but when they're really gigantic ones, it tends to bug me a little. But so again, I'd say if you're a really major paranormal fantasy enthusiast, then you might want to give it a try. But if you're someone who just watches a few here and there, then it's probably not one of the best examples to pick. And moving on to SBS On Demand, I just finished last night watching season 2 of Trapped. For those who aren't familiar with this, it's an Icelandic series, a crime drama, so Nordic noir, essentially. The first season, or for the first season, the name Trapped for the series made complete sense because it's set in this remote village in northern Iceland, and a snowstorm had come in and no one could get in or out. There was pretty much zero communication, and some murders were taking place. So they had a killer in the village and they were all trapped in the town with him. So that, I thought, gave a really interesting and different twist to the standard Nordic noir crime drama. It worked really well. I absolutely loved it from start to finish. For season 2, I didn't hate season 2. I did enjoy it. It has a good storyline, some relevant modern topics to do with, racism, Islamophobia, and pollution, and introducing factories and things into the natural environment. So there was a lot going on in the story. There were quite a few twists. I didn't guess the killer until pretty late on. However, this time it did just feel like a standard Nordic noir because we didn't have that added element of them being isolated and trapped in this village. We had people from Reykjavik, police and forensics popping up every 2 seconds. So, I think the first season was better because it did have that special twist that you didn't get in other Nordic noir, whereas this time it could have just been the same as any other Norwegian, Danish, Swedish series. So it was still enjoyable. If you watched season 1 and you enjoyed season 1, then it's worth carrying on with the story and with the characters. If you haven't seen season 1, I probably would watch that in preference over season 2 because I think it was better overall. And finally, I watched on YouTube The Buccaneers. Now, this is really old. We're talking mid-90s, I think about 95, 94, 95. It was on TV on the BBC. And I think I probably did watch it then, but it's long enough ago that I don't have a strong memory of it. And the reason I looked it up and decided to watch it on YouTube now was because I'd recently picked up a copy of the book, which I hadn't read. And it made me think, oh, this was a TV series, and I wonder if it's around somewhere I can watch it. It's quite interesting because Edith Wharton hadn't finished writing this book before she died. She was only about maybe 2/3 through. So the ending, as we see it on the TV version, is something the screenwriters have made up. Edith Wharton did leave a 2-page synopsis of the story, so we did know how it was going to end, but not with a lot of detail. So there's quite a lot that the screenwriters could just fill in however they wanted. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. I mean, deciding that one of the characters was gay, I mean, I don't know, it's not impossible, perhaps he was, but for me, reading Edith Wharton's original parts of the book, I didn't read him that way. So I kind of thought that maybe that was just a bit lazy writing, because he's a character, you know, he's not a brilliant character insofar as we absolutely love him and he's perfect, but he's one of those characters who, yes, he has his flaws, but he's not a bad person per se. And I actually feel like when Nan, who's our main heroine, I struggle with Nan actually, because she's a character who, she makes some bad decisions and ends up unhappy, which then leads her to go off and have an affair. And I kind of felt that the screenwriters had made her husband gay simply to make her more sympathetic, because she's not necessarily a sympathetic character. Yes, she's unhappy, but some of that's of her own making. And although the Duke, you know, her husband, isn't perfect, he's not a bad man. And you do kind of lose sympathy for her a little bit, because she's the one who goes off behind his back and is doing all this stuff. And I just felt that making the Duke gay was only a way to make audiences say, oh, well, she had a reason for doing it then. And that kind of grated on me a little bit. I thought, okay, if he's going to be gay, he's going to be gay, but that's fine. But for me, it didn't quite work, because I thought it was just an excuse, and not because they actually definitely thought he was gay. And I just realised I'm waffling on about this, but I haven't actually told you what the story is about yet. The Buccaneers is about a group of young ladies from America. Then they're all nouveau riche. They're all new money, so they haven't completely been accepted in New York society. Therefore, when their English governess, Miss Test Valley, comes over, she suggests to the mothers that they take the girls to London for a season, because if they're successful there, that will open doors for them when they come back to New York. So they go over, and as it happens, they end up captivating much of the local aristocracy, and several making advantageous marriages, a few of which work out, some of which don't so well. So that's the basic premise anyway, which I kind of should have said at the start. But it is a good adaptation in many ways. It was just those one or two aspects from where they picked up after the book ended and created their own thing that I thought were a little bit dubious, because I think they were just to try to make us sympathetic with a heroine who doesn't necessarily deserve all our sympathy all the time. So that's my thought on that anyway. I was happy to have seen it, and I was interested to contrast what they kept from the book, what they changed, and how they decided to interpret the ending. And that brings me to the end, actually, of my March watches. As I said, I didn't do a lot in the cinema this month, and I'm hoping that will be a bit higher in April. There are quite a few things coming out I'd like to see. I'm interested in the Aftermath. Of course, the new Avengers is a must. And there's one or two others as well that do look quite interesting, which I might try to get to at least one of those. So that's the plan anyway. Definitely Avengers and Aftermath. And anything else, we'll see what I can fit in. I am quite busy. I've got quite a few editing jobs coming in potentially in the next week or so. So we'll just have to see how time works out. TV-wise and streaming TV-wise, I don't particularly have a lot lined up at the moment. I am looking at one on SBS On Demand called Pagan Peak, which is kind of a German version of The Bridge. If any of you have seen that, either the American version or the Swedish original, where a body's found kind of on the border, so no one's quite sure who has jurisdiction over the case. This is apparently a bit of a similar setup. So I think it looks interesting. I might give that a try. It's only 6 episodes, I believe. So that will probably be the next one that I have a look at next month. At the moment, I don't think there's anything particularly gripping on Netflix. I'm still waiting for season 4 of Lucifer to be announced and things like that. So we'll just see what comes up during April that I decide to watch. I will end there for now. I'm going to be back tomorrow, probably about the same time. I'm not exactly sure yet. It just depends when I'm up and ready. But potentially around this time tomorrow, I will be back to do my book wrap up for the month, which it's been a fairly bumper reading month again, so I'll have plenty to share with you then. I will close there for now, but I look forward to talking to you all again tomorrow morning. Bye for now, everyone.